I wish you guys the best with your Yum Yum podcast.
Yum, yum.
Hi, Ryan.
Hello, Rachel.
I'm not okay.
And I'm doing fine and dandy. How about this? Are you doing Yum Yum?
No.
That's a lie. That's a lie. We're always doing Yum Yum because we're the Yum Yum podcast.
True. We're always doing Yum Yum, but I'm not feeling Yum Yum right now.
I feel that's untrue as well. How can someone of the Yum Yum podcast not feel Yum Yum at all times?
I'm kind of sad and a little bit scared. After watching this episode of Killjoys, I am really not sure what is going to come next, and it annoys me that you do, because you've watched this show and I haven't, and we're here about to talk through our thoughts and opinions and blah blah blah, the themes, some predictions, focusing in on the season 3 finale, Wargasm.
Yes, the season 3 finale of Killjoys called Wargasm. What a title that is. And as you said, first time for you, second time for me going through this show. And I just want to say up front, Rachel, that this season was pretty big. A lot of stuff happened, and yet this finale, pretty big. A lot of stuff happens. I do, however, have a summary here for this finale. I was looking over the IMDb summary because sometimes they are funny and amusing. Sadly, not the case for this. So I had to make do. I had to make do and come up with my own summary for Wargasm, and you should commend me on not just reading you the lines of dialogue from the film Savages, in which Blake Lively tells us her...
No, you'll include the audio instead, right?
I have to include the audio instead. That will be the summary instead of me doing it.
No, do both.
Oh, okay, if we must.
I don't want to be deprived.
I have orgasms. He has wargasms.
Team Awesome Force and their mighty militia finally face off against Anila. Meanwhile, Rob Stewart returns with that color in his hair, which sends a chill down both of our spines. There you go. I thought, gotta keep it simple for a very big episode with a lot of moving parts. And everyone listening, make sure to give this episode a watch for yourself. We're going to get into all of the nitty-gritty details. If you have the means, do support the podcast on Patreon, because not only do we release these episodes early, we are also watching through Killjoys, recording our reactions and having discussions there as well. So you get to see those in full, unedited. You get to see us laugh. You get to see what moments in particular make us go, wow, that there was the Yum Yum moment of Killjoys today. Because Yum Yum is the name of the podcast, but it was a moment from Star Trek Discovery that was hilarious. And so we like to look at the hilarious moments in Killjoys because it's a show with a lot of humor as well as a lot of heart. And Wargasm being the finale means there's a lot on the line when it comes to the Yum Yum moment, the Yum Yum laugh. Rachel, what was yours?
I'm going to go with one that I feel like it's very clippable. It's very much of this character's sense of humor, but a good reflection of the show as well. And it also has a bitch. What line do you think it is?
Is it when they call Anila Alpha Bitch?
Nope.
That's a pretty good line. Is it when they call her a bitch face?
Nah.
No. Is I can't remember.
Gotta go see a bitch about a war.
Ah. And that was Dutch.
Mhm.
Who said that?
I'm pretty sure.
My yum yum laugh was from our friend Turin. He is alone, ready to face the end.
Oh, the enema.
No.
His response to
No. Before he gets taken to get his green enema, he refers to himself as Red. He now knows that he's a little redhead guy. He's now calling himself the insults. He's now calling himself the little nicknames. And I think that's a wonderful progression of the character.
I don't know if he sees that one as an
they've been making it an insult the whole time. Like, oh, shut up, little Red. Hey, Red. They just keep calling him in a derisive way. And now he's just like, that's who I am. I'm Red.
We have a serious question.
Mm-hmm.
But I first have to say, no nut shots this episode.
What? Not even to Gander?
No.
It's his last time to get one.
Yeah.
Are you sure Fancy didn't kick him in the nuts and that's why he fell down?
I was on the lookout.
You're always
I
looking
know.
at every character's... Wait, did the not Lachlan guy... Are you sure he didn't get shot in the genitals?
I didn't see it, so I'm gonna have to count this one in the ever growing list of episodes that have no nut shots. But we do get some bitches. We get some bitch. How many do we get, Ryan?
How many do you think?
6.
Correctamundo, Rachel. There are 6 bitches. Half a dozen uses of the word bitch appear in this episode, most of them from Dutch, in relation to Anila, because she's a bitch, and we gotta take care of that fucking bitch. And this being the season finale means that there's only one person responsible for writing, but also we have our usual friend directing the episode too. The winning combination of Michelle Lovretta giving us a script and our good friend Stefan directing. And what a team they made. I do want to say, in regards to Michelle and writing this episode, I thought this was one of her least bombastic episodes that she's done. Even though there's a lot happening.
Yeah, it wasn't crammed full in a way that made me question if it was going to be a Love Rudder episode. I was like, it has to be. But it doesn't have the trappings of her earlier episodes. And I'm like, she's great.
And it's much better than her previous episode, the Skinner Darkly. There's a lot more focus here. There's a through line here. And she took a bold risk. I'm assuming Michelle wrote this line in there. Unless someone else snuck it in. Unless that Adam Barkin just quickly, ducked in and wrote this line in there and Michelle didn't notice. But when Davin is talking about children and the names of children, he mentions Michelle being a possible name. It's a bossy name. And I don't know if Michelle would write that about herself, but maybe she would. Maybe she knows that, because she's the head honcho of the show. Maybe she did put that there. But it's just such a funny piece of business to have in your own show a line about how you yourself are a boss bitch. I think that's very great.
It.
Yeah, I loved it. I just wanted to know Michelle's thought process.
It's a thing. If you don't, it's just like, well, okay, that's just Davin's thoughts on it.
So about baby names.
Oh, you need to kill me again, please.
I've always liked Michelle. It's bossy, but it means well.
As usual, the direction from Stefan is great. It's showy when it needs to be. It's restrained when it needs to be. It knows exactly what this story is requiring. It's letting the actors play, but also using the environments available because there's multiple places that are happening in this episode. We have outdoor locations. We have our spaceships. We have our usual places. We have the necropolis. We have the green space. We have so many places where ping-ponging around, and yet it never feels too complicated. It never feels like you're losing the thread of what
No,
we're doing here and where we are.
It's heading towards one thing. And each time it's very clear what the obstacle is. It's very clear what all of the characters are doing. It's very clear why the characters are doing what they're doing.
We are also currently covering Star Trek Starfleet Academy on the podcast. And it's such an interesting contrast to go from that show / franchise to Killjoys, because you're seeing the differences of emphasis and priority. One is very much like spectacle, running around, action, flips. And I was expecting that from this finale, if I must say, like going into just general thoughts, even going back into it, coming as a rewatch. I remember this episode being pretty,
we have
hectic.
The fighters, we have the sonic weapon, we have the armada arrive.
We have all of this stuff, and yet I must admit that although they do cash in on the bonanza that you would expect, there's so much withheld, and not in a way where I'm feeling like I'm being cheated, because it's much more interested in the characters and the story and the themes. While in something like modern Star Trek, say, they're so guilty of just wasting the time on those things and looking at the cool spaceships and the kung fu action set pieces and the hand-to-hand combat and so on and so on and so on. And so my general thoughts just coming out of this episode was in the forefront of my mind of, we are at war and Neela is over here doing this. We have to go get her. Davin and Dulcea and Johnny are teaming up because they need to do this. And immediately I'm already going into the character interplay rather than the spectacle that is present in this episode, but it's not.
It doesn't
what you're here for.
Not do those things. Those things are here and they are not the focus. And until I saw this note, I didn't appreciate just how much that helped me enjoy this episode, because that spectacle is not why I want to be here watching Killjoys. The characters are.
And this is also a great example of why sometimes a lower budget can make a production better, because they know their limits. They know what to work with. So when we did, say, Babylon 5, there were many great episodes of that show, which had a much lower budget than its sci-fi contemporaries at the time, that were excellent because it knew how to handle its budget and what they should do instead of what they want to do. Because, you're a sci-fi show, you want to do all of the big action set pieces and the space battles and da-da-da-da-da, but sometimes it's better to actually get rid of those things and have two characters in a room talking. And dwell on that. And that's what this episode does in abundance, is it dwells on characters facing off against each other. But how did you feel about this finale overall?
I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I found the pacing and the balancing of this finale was much better, in my opinion, than the previous two. We have kept the trend of one person from our trio departing from the other two at the end of each season, which I find a good pattern. I wasn't expecting it, but it makes sense that is where this ends up. And it also makes sense where they ended up, but I wasn't predicting it.
We have an overarching plot of Aneela is here and we must stop her fleet and stop her ability to destroy the quad. That is present. But really, this episode is made up of a series of characters coming to the end of their arc that has been with them throughout the season. And how did you feel about that structure and the way that it was presented and played in this finale? Because that can be a tricky thing where it's how much of a finale do you balance the plot and the character stuff.
I think it does a good job because, you know, you mentioned Star Trek Starfleet Academy. We have just covered the season finale for that show.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, at the end, it has this monologue that goes, look at all of the character development from here to here to here, this person, that relationship. And that doesn't feel earned. But looking back on this episode, all those moments are baked into this episode, where you get that moment with Pre and Garrett, you get that moment with Dutch, you get that moment with Dulcea, you get that moment with Johnny, you get that moment with Zeph and Pip, you get that moment with Turin and Fancy, where it's like, and this is where they're at the end of the season. You get the button for all of their stories.
And
it feels earned here. It feels deserved. And the show isn't drawing attention to those things. It's doing them because that's good storytelling. Because that's the moment that makes sense for those characters. And those moments work as well as they do, not only because of the writing of the show, but because of the performances of those actors, those performers who embody these characters so well now. Even ones that we've just met this season.
It's back down to what Killjoys is probably the most skilled at, which is time management. It is so efficient because some of these character arcs are bigger than others. And so they work as well as they do because Pre, for instance, he has been in this season very actively. But his character thing has been about, opening up to Garrett, but also dealing with the fact that he's a leader too. Like we had that with his previous warlord days and how he's shed that. But by the end of this episode, he has to lead the charge and he has to get back into the way he was and have to, tell Fancy that we don't leave people behind and that he's willing to stay behind this time. But that has not been like every episode we're checking in on Pre with that thing because you only needed it to be sprinkled through two or three times at max during this season because it's a very understandable character thing. And Pre, for instance, as well as so many of the other characters, are so well defined as characters, you can believe that this sustains itself. So you don't need it to be checked in on every single time we see Pre. And so when we come back to it at the end of this episode, there is an emotional honesty to it. Again, Killjoys is masterful at knowing that you don't need to waste so much time to quickly and effectively and efficiently establish your characters and what their arcs are, what their problems are, what their deal is for the given season. And so that is a part of it. And think about this, Rachel. This season finale perfectly highlights how much we've broadened out the scope. We have multiple characters' journeys coming to a head here. Not just Team Awesome Force, not just the villains, but Pre, Garrett, we have Fancy, we have Torin, we have so many people who get their time to shine, and it's not because this is the episode where that happens. They've had it throughout the entire season.
It's just so good. And it's so rewarding to watch. And it just helps everything be even more engaging because it all builds on each other and from each other, and it just gives you this wealth of riches where it feels like a whole world. And I'm so interested and invested to see what this new part of the world that we're going to see next season is going to be like.
We'll stay. Honeymoon's not over.
I'll send back any ships I can when it's done, if there's still a rack to come back to.
We'll give you some ground-to-air cover until you're clear.
Thank you.
You'll make it, Fancy. You better. With your bar tab.
Killjoys understands that in an ensemble show, there has to be something interesting about the ensemble. It can't just be the main characters. And as a fan of ensemble science fiction television, I can tell you 9 times out of 10, I like those side characters. I like those secondary characters. I like those supporting characters more than the lead, more than the leads in general. And Killjoys is no different. Like, I love the main 3, but I love Pri more. And Pri gets married in this. And so as someone watching the show who loves Pri, this is a little treat for me.
And I just want to make it super clear for people who have maybe not watched this episode or haven't watched it in a little while. The fact that they just showed them getting married, and because they're doing
They're tying their hands together.
hand binding ceremony. They're just doing it at the table. One of the Ferrin is doing it for them. And
it's in the midst of the battle.
No, it's before the battle.
Oh, but, in the grander scope of things. They're
like,
not doing... Then this isn't a special
them-
ceremony for them.
No,
they're doing it during the
during-
war.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, this is the final lull before we go into battle. This is our last chance to do these things and have a little bit of merry. And that's just there happening. And if you don't know what that is, it doesn't spell it out for you, but you can tell that that's a moment of intimacy. That's a bonding of these two people.
Visual storytelling.
And then Pri refers to their honeymoon.
Mm-hmm.
It puts trust in the audience in a way that a lot of other shows don't.
Yeah.
And it's a very clear example of how this show isn't second screen designed.
No, and you get lovely little moments between the two of them that make the running, gunning threat of being attacked much more interesting.
It's so sweet when he's like, I've never left Old Town. And
Garrett,
that was one of my contenders, was the line that Pri has about how, oh, that's sweet as shit, but so sad.
Yeah, I married up, as Garrett says, because Garrett has lived a simple life. He's just a guy who lives in Old Town. He's from generations upon generations of miners, and he never think he would go beyond this. Like, remember when we first met him, Garrett's place was the dream. Ooh, he took this bar. Ooh, isn't that the cool thing? And just seeing these two getting to chat to one another and getting to fight bad guys, and Garrett giving up his pacifism for the moment, and he's just like, I got over it. And you cheer, you go, yeah, baby. There was a lot of fun to be had in the cuddly teddy bear pacifist, but now, when shit's real and we're about to go to war proper and we are looking death in the face, Garrett's not going to flinch. And that's great, because Garrett has something to lose. He's married. He's in a relationship. He has an investment not just in the cause, not just in the grander scope of everything, but also in someone else. And that someone else has the same investment in him. And it's a mutual relationship now, where in the previous episodes, that's been their dynamic is Pri has had to kind of open up more and see them as equals. And now we're at that point, even though there's still a lot of humor there. I just really like the Pri and Garrett stuff. I liked when they board the ship, they're trying to leave and whatnot, and they still have to get all of their men back, and just Garrett is going to stay and deal with that, expecting Pri to go back up with Fancy, and nope, Pri's not going to do that. He's going to stay there because he has come to that point in the journey in the season where it's like, no, I am willing to stay. While before, in his past, when things got tough, he would run. He would change up. He would realize this is no longer my fight.
Yes. And it has been an interesting journey to see that development with Pre, because the first stage of that was Pre not wanting to fight for anything. And then it became Pre fighting for the bar. And then it was for Old Town. And now it's for the whole quad. And that hasn't been a massive, like, hey, look at Pre be a hero now kind of shtick. It's just been the changes and the journey that character is going on. And his relationship is treated with that same level of respect and care.
One of the more interesting parts of this episode was Torin and Fancy. They've been, I must admit, their dynamic has been probably one of the more interesting of the season overall, even if we've had our issues with Torin as a character. Once they've locked in on Torin and Fancy having this rift between them, it has actually been quite compelling stuff, I must admit. And this episode was no different. I really appreciated straight up top. Torin walks in, he's Mr. Can I join the war again? And Davin, like us, the audience, is like, no, fuck you. Go fuck yourself. I deny you. What was so wonderful is Fancy says, this is war, not prom. Like, let's get over our fucking
it's from
dramas.
Him. And that makes it much more compelling. And it makes complete sense for those characters. It is something that Fancy would let go of for the bigger plan. Because he was always so much stronger in his conviction than Davin when it came to the warrant is all.
Exactly.
So him applying that same logic to the war, complete sense. Doesn't miss a beat, just nails it.
Fancy's always understood that organizations need to have certain ways of working, but at the end of the day, they
Designated asshole.
But at the end of the day, they need to fulfill the function. And that's exactly what they're doing here, is like, Torin, although is an asshole, and he's personally hurt me, I recognize that Torin is a valuable asset that we should be using in this dire hour of need right now. So let's move the fuck on. And thank goodness that they did that. And they just did it, again, very quickly and efficiently and with a good line of dialogue. And then for the rest of the episode, we have Torin and Fancy doing what they do. You have Fancy flying around in the ships, and you have Torin being the guy, back on the mainstay ship, directing things how they need to go. And both of them reach a point where now it's fail time. Like, it's not working anymore. The bad guys are up our ass, and we have to eventually meet up together and fight the bad guys together, back to back, brothers in arms, if you will. And the way that fluctuates throughout the episode too, like they come together and go apart several times in this episode, and they even make jokes about like, hey, this is my hey, let me have my hero moment, let me have my like last stand hero moment. It's like, nah, I'm the hero. I like that these two guys are like the asshole turned hero character type, both of them.
Yes. And it doesn't feel like, oh, they've paired the similar characters up together. It's more, we've paired these characters who are diametrically opposed, that should be foes.
And have been.
And smash them together.
And then in that process, you see that they are very similar.
What about you? Captain goes down with his ship, you know that. You aren't our captain. Oh, just let me have my goddamn hero moment, will you piece of shit? Okay, you probably don't have many years left anyway. Be surprised. I still have that new asshole smell.
What did you feel about the ending of Gander? Because that ties into Fancy and Turin.
It's weird because I understand that's the end. Like, that seems to be the end. It was instant brain death by the looks of things. Fancy is an efficient assassin.
He knows all about the Hullen. He was one.
Yes. But it also feels like he's going to get back up, right? He's just that slimy of a motherfucker. It's hard to imagine that he's actually dead and gone.
Because he's been so big of a presence, and they dispatch him with no fanfare, no big, whoa, look at this. If anything, it's all the better for it, though. Because where he is now, Gander, he's a sniveling little servant boy. He no longer is that big alpha master commander manipulator Hullen. He's a lapdog. He's a lackey. So seeing him just get dispatched with and we just move the fuck on, I think is the perfect way to end this. And I think it's so funny, like, you were in disbelief when it happened. You're like, wait, did Gander just die, or is he just like laying down? I'm like, oh, Rachel, he stabbed him in the brain real good. We know how this works. But those two being the one to deal with Gander is interesting as well, because it's like Gander's been only in Dulcea's story.
But it also makes sense that side characters will be the end of a side character. It feels equitable. Like, if Dutch was the one to take Gander down, then that would feel like a de-escalation.
We've talked about Fancy's side of this, but you and I have had our issues with Turin as a character. How do you feel now about Turin? How do you feel? Do you feel like...
I still feel complicated. Like, I still don't like him. I still don't trust him. But he is of benefit. But he is a benefit to the cause. So he's worth having around, even though he's a liability. Which is the same way that he feels about Fancy.
Do you feel like he has redeemed himself? Because I think the episode and Fancy very much frames it that way.
Yes, he has done the right thing. But I still don't trust him. I still don't see him as being redeemed because I don't think he believes what he did is wrong. I think he still believes that he was justified in those prejudiced acts that he did.
Really? Even after everything
I still think that
cleansed proved?
I still think that... I don't trust that Turin, if he got the chance to rewind the clock and go back, I don't know if he would do things differently. I do think if he was offered that same choice now, he might, because people knew what he did.
Turin is the spanner in the works in a way of something that we have talked about, but it's been a little bit of time, which is how anti-establishment is this show? Like, what is its views on authority and of power and of hierarchy? How does it feel about the system that is inherently corrupted? Because in the first two seasons, it was very clear. And we had the 9 and we had Dulcea, but this season makes it a little bit more murky because now we're starting to humanize the hierarchy. We're starting to see that people like Jelko can have humanity to them, and Dulcea and Neela and all of these people. And Turin is a spanner in the works of this because he is the most recognizably authority figure we have. He's the police chief who has gone beyond the pale because of his prejudice and his fears. He's gone through this wicked journey throughout the season, and he believes that the system can still be saved, even though this show itself is telling us that it can't be and it has to be changed. And yet Turin exists in this weird place where we condemn him, but we also keep him. And I don't know, on a messaging level, in a greater sense, what that means. Like this figure who represents the establishment of the past that we no longer need, and yet he's beneficial to what we are now. Like what do you make of it in that regard, of like, in terms of the bigger thematic stuff?
I like that it's still messy. Because Killjoys is a world of flawed people. And if it was just, and now he's good again, that wouldn't ring true. That wouldn't feel right. And it would feel like it's erasing the growth that he's had.
No, I'm not denying that, but in terms of like his positioning as a thematic role, he's slotting back into just being like, the old police chief role still benefits us. And it's like, shouldn't he have changed more so?
Maybe, but it's also because that role needs to be filled.
Does it?
Well, in this moment it does, because Dutch is AWOL and has given her role as general up, and Davin has to go after Dutch. So somebody needs to be able to step up into that role.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
It feels functional in that way, and it doesn't feel like it's his plan to take that over, whereas him earlier in the season, I could see him making that play.
Oh, of course. He thought it was his war. Let's talk about our two more minor but recurring characters of Zeph and Pippin. Zeph has been a part of Team Awesome Force for this season, and Pippin has flicked in and out. And they are much more small in this story, but they're still here because they provide their tech skills. You know, Pippin does his thing and Zeph does her thing. But the most interesting part is they are the faces we see of people who are like looking down the barrel of the end of civilization as we know it, and they panic. You see them scared. You see them go, oh no. While the other characters, like, they're frightened, but they're like, locked and loaded. Let's do this thing. I'm touring. I'm going to make a quip about how can I keep my hair? Do you give me a freak name when I'm a Hullen? All of that stuff. And, you know, Davin and Johnny are making their quips and all that. Well, Zeph and Pippin, they are like, holy crap, we could die.
They're flailing, and it makes so much sense to me that they would flail about and find each other. And then they make out. And I love that this show gets away with that kind of funny moment in the midst of all of this seriousness. Because there is something amusing about them finding each other and just starting to make out. But it also reflects their character. It reflects the situation they're in and the world at large. And has potential to make more interesting things later, even if it is just awkward conversation.
I'm feeling kind of sweaty. Anybody else feeling sweaty? Like, in their mouths?
You know, they say size doesn't matter.
Nobody says that.
But I would not want to whip it out in front of this beauty.
Good. Our plan only works if they're the ones doing the whipping.
Where does the wargasm come in, Rachel? Who has it and why?
Dulcea has it when she launches her attack.
This show is so progressive. You know, we have a lot of people of color in this show. We have a lot of women in this show. We have a lot of gay people or gay characters in this show or queer characters in this show. But what's really progressive about this is, you know, and I mean this sincerely, this show said heavily pregnant women can wargasm too. They're wargasmic creatures as well. It's not just, you know, your non-pregos. And I just love that. Like, there is something very both funny and off-putting about the image of Dulcea being as heavily pregnant as she is and doing like the villainous shit that she does in this episode, and that she is getting off on it in a sexual way. There's just so much like overt pleasure to being this evil woman, and her being like heavily pregnant. It's just such an interesting image to have in this episode, and it's not one that they shy away from. They know what they're doing with it. They know that there's a lot of comedy to be had, but also just a lot of just, I don't want to say surrealism per se, but there is just something off-putting about it. Even like with her scenes with Gander, where a lot of it is shot in a silhouette. Like they're very underlit in their scenes, and she's like standing above him, and her belly is almost like hitting him in the face. And there's just something about that where it's just like, it's just not right, because there's this image that you have, this idea of like what a pregnant, the pregnant belly, the pregnant image of like purity and innocence and all of this stuff. Meanwhile, she's the most despicable villainess in this episode. She does more heinous shit than Anila does in this episode, and it's more her attitude than the actions.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and it's enjoyable to see. It's just like, no, pregnant people can be evil too,
and horny. There's that moment where Dutch goes to visit her in the jail cell, and they make a reference to how the roles were reversed in the first season, and they have their little playful, flirty banter. And she says, Dulcea, that Anil is prettier. There's something in the eyes, and it's like, oh, insanity? Is that what it is? And it's like, yeah, she's not wrong. Dutch is not wrong about that, but what do you make out of the Dutch and Dulcea relationship in this episode? Because now she's had an actual relationship with Dutch's mirror opposite person. So now when she gets to see Dutch, there is a dynamic that is drastically different to what it was before.
I find it amusing the mental gymnastics that Dulcea goes through to create that clear division between Dutch and Anila, and the way that the show represents that too, because Dutch calls it out for being insanity. Dulcea doesn't deny that, really.
No.
That's not where her energies are, but also she would be lying if she said that Anila was sane. And she knows that, but she loves her anyway.
Because she sees the humanity, the vulnerability, the something else with Anila, that
the power
as well. Yeah. And Dutch knows these things on a intellectual level. Like, she's seen the memories, she knows, but also she doesn't. She hasn't experienced it for real. And it's hard to as well, because Anila is an evil villain who also killed Alvis. That's something that did happen, so that's also putting a bit of a sour taste in the mouth there as well. And Dulcea's not fazed by those type of things, because she is equally as capable of doing those and has done those as well. And I also just want to flag up too that Dulcea is trapped. She's in a cage, but she knows that she's going to get free. So there's that cockiness to her in this episode of like, she still hasn't lost anything. She knows that this is all part of the plan. She knows that this will all work out in her favor, but it doesn't undermine how she felt at the end of last episode, because what she didn't expect in the last episode was for Johnny to actually commit to it.
No, she thought she knew better. And that does seem to have her shaken a little bit in this episode. In particular, it creates a new kind of tension when she's left alone with Davin and Johnny at the end of the episode.
And with just looking at how Dutch interacts with Dulcea, it highlights the difference of how Anila interacts and how Hannah John-Kamen plays both of these roles. I really loved when Dutch has been captured by Dulcea and now given to Anila in a box. Very funny. Very reminiscent of the beginning of season 2 when Dutch was in the weapons case. And they have the be careful, be brutal interaction between the two of them. And you're like, fuck yeah, this is great. And we have been wondering throughout the show, when are the two going to play one another? When is Anila going to play Dutch and when is Dutch going to play Anila? And we still haven't seen Dutch play Anila. We have only seen Anila play as Dutch. She goes undercover on Lucy as Dutch. She is there to be a menace. Like, you find out later that she's not supposed to have done that. There was nothing to gain for her really to do that. It's not a part of the plan. She just couldn't help herself. She was curious and just wanted to do it.
That's just fun. It's nice that the insane villain gets to be insane, but not in a way where it's just like, oh, she can do whatever. It's like she still has her reasons.
They're childlike curiosity. But here's the thing I want to ask you and be upfront here. Is this excusable from a narrative point of view? Because realistically, the reason it's here is so that Johnny can be injured in the episode. So Anila does this, and you can justify it as, well, she's crazy.
Yeah.
But is that good enough?
Yeah, for me it is. It also enables her to get the weapon that they then take into the green space, which is needed, and it makes sure that Dutch doesn't go into that fight having the weapon, feeling like she has the upper hand, which would then make the sort of the tables turning and her working with Anila feel like less of a valid option.
I'm mixed personally because I do think it is a little bit too much of a function is required here. Like, you need Anila to get that weapon. You need Johnny to be incapacitated. You need. And on a superficial level, you want to see Anila pretend to be Dutch at some point. And you have to do it in this season. And although she did it with Alvis, it was so brief. It doesn't feel as satisfying as if you had a whole scene of it. And where we, the audience, already know that it's Anila as well. So I do feel like the artificial nature to it, but it's not the most grievous offense of it. I think personally, and this actually does lower the episode in my opinion a bit, is they have Turin grab out the genetic bomb and it's going to be his last stand thing and it just doesn't work. And then they laugh at him and take him away. And I don't know, like, I guess you could say that that's the comedy undercut there, but I actually thought that was a bit cheap. I was like, oh, it's just not going to work now. And when are we ever going to address why it doesn't work? Is it going to come back, the genetic bomb? Like, did they take the genetic bomb? Like, these are the things that, like, that one annoys me more. Where that's a need of function. Like, a need of function is, yeah, we do have the genetic bomb. We brought it back because you have to in the finale, but it won't work. We won't say why. And Turin has to be captured.
Because he hasn't put anything in it.
You have to assume that, yeah.
Yeah.
But he already knows how it works because he was the one who...
But he didn't have any Hullen blood or goo to put in it.
Yet they had a Hullen captive with
well, yeah,
he
didn't have a sample.
Yeah, these are the things that they start to stack on themselves because, we need him to get to this place. And so we also do need to use the genetic bomb. And so why it doesn't work, we start to do what you're doing, which is like, okay, I can headcanon to some extent because they don't say.
No, but I feel like it makes sense because we know
I'm not saying it doesn't make sense.
No, but I don't feel like it's an oversight. I feel like we know the way that the bomb works. We know the process that you need to do. And Turin doesn't do that.
Okay,
We see him grab it out and then hit the button. It doesn't have any catalyst in it.
But it was set up as like he knew that this would be his last stand option.
Fair.
But again, I don't disagree with your point, but this and the Neela going undercover as Dutch does have a whiff to me, more so than to you, of like the needs of the script require these things. And hey, I enjoyed both of them. Like, I'm not going to fully mark down the episode purely because of those, but I did feel the hand of the author moving us into the places we needed to. Also, I don't know, I think it's a bit iffy on you stab Johnny in the center of his chest. Okay, it didn't get his heart, but he's injured so, like, he got super stabbed. And last time we saw him stabbed, he was out proper. And in this episode, he's running around, and they even make jokes about, like, hey, you shouldn't be running around. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, either
collapsed lungs. He should not be this able-bodied.
The fact is, this show has shown us, with this character, how devastating and long-lasting the consequences of being stabbed is. So they can't get away with this. If this show had never done it before, and they had this moment, there is the level of, suspension of belief. I could go, oh, okay. Like, it's silly, but I'll be okay with it. But this show has actually got out of its way to show us that when people get stabbed, they don't just get back up again.
So, what are your intentions?
I intend not to die today, and I intend to save her beautiful, stubborn ass, and if you keep being weird about this, I intend to poke you in the lung hole.
See, this is why you are my least favorite brother.
And look, with the Jacobys, they have to leave their duties, they have to do their things, so that way they can go toe-to-toe with Dulcea. And that's an interesting dynamic as well, of like, we have to have Dulcea and the Jacobys become an unlikely alliance because both sides don't want their respective Hannah John-Kamen to die.
What a way to phrase it, love. What a way to phrase it.
I mean, we've all been there, right? We've all been in our respective I don't want my Hannah John-Kamen to die. We've all been in that corner.
No. Soz haven't. Haven't been there. You know what? I may not have had that, but I weirdly enough have been stuck in an elevator with my sibling and their non-partner that's pregnant with their spawn non-consensually.
Have you? Have you been in that? Have you actually been in that?
No.
Are you sure? You can't just say that. You can't just say that and expect the listener to not believe that actually happened.
No, I have been in an elevator with my spouse, their partner, when they've been pregnant consensually.
Your spouse and their partner?
Well,
guys, shocking news. Rachel and I haven't had a kid yet. But my spouse, my partner and I, we're in a poly relationship. Rachel's revealing it now in the pod. We watched too much Star Trek Starfleet Academy where those kids don't understand polyamory exists, and I said it's time for us to make it exist in our personal life, and I immediately got them pregnant. It's, you know what they say, you just shoot it through the hoop and you get it in. I know what you're saying, your sibling and their spouse, and she was pregnant, and you and the other, but they didn't give birth in there. Nor did Dulcea.
No, but I've been in that situation where it's been my sibling that's been pregnant and my sibling that has gotten somebody pregnant.
Oh, okay. You and your siblings and their messy, messy, messy relations.
No, it's not. It's not that messy. It's just that both my brother and my sister have had kids.
Messy, messy.
Yeah. Your siblings had a kid. Is that messy?
Yep. They should all adopt the Shaker lifestyle where we just don't. Rachel, Dulcea, Johnny, and Davin trapped in the lift from Necropolis now.
Possibly floating into the sun?
Hopefully not. Hopefully they get the angle right and they just kind of go into the gravity of things, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Davin's leaning into being a dad.
I am really enjoying the humor that the show is doing with that.
Fathers have rights too, Rachel. Would you want to know the sex of the child before?
I don't think so, no.
Now, Rachel, the big question here is, we have Davin, we have Dulcea, we have Johnny trapped in a lift, floating in space, hoping that their respective Hannah John-Kamens are doing okay, that they're fine, but they don't know because they saw them go into a green goo pool, and we'll talk about that in a moment more so. And they're quipping, they're making jokes. Do you think Dulcea will give birth in this lift when we come back next season, or do you think they'll sort it out before she gets a child?
I think she's gonna. I think she's gonna at least have some false labor pains in the lift.
You don't.
I don't know if she's gonna give birth fully. I was expecting her to give birth this episode.
Didn't happen. Do you think you'll get a Star Trek TNG episode Disaster where Worf helps Keiko give birth, but instead of Worf, it's Davin and Dulcea? That would be great. And it's did you love that Davin started to ask in his very jovial way, how the fuck is he the dad? Like, he just looks in the eye and just says, we didn't have sex, did we? I don't remember that. And just her being like, no, we didn't. Plus, if we did, you'd remember. It's like...
I appreciated that, because her being like, ew, gross, but also, I'm good at sex. You wouldn't forget how good it was. No matter what sci-fi nonsense, you would know.
And I love just teaming up these three characters, especially with where they are at, where Johnny and Dulcea hate each other. Davin is just in this perplexed state of like, I'm going to be a dad. And she's going to give birth to the child? What the hell's going on here? And then stressing about Anila and Dutch and the state of their existence. They just saw them go into a pool of green and robotic spiders come out and attack them, and now they're just floating in space in a lift. What a way to end those characters for the time being. However, we need to get into the real heart of this episode, the thing that's been on the horizon since the very beginning of this season, which is Dutch and Anila facing off against each other. How are they going to deal with one another? Dutch has a trick up her sleeve, but even then, their emotions get high and they can't help but just take it out and lash out at each other and get into a physical brawl.
It is a really fun scene that is well executed as well. Like, we are both assuming that it's like Hannah John-Kamen fighting her stunt double, but they do enough interesting things with it where it doesn't feel like a now Dutch, a now Anila. Like, they're both there, even though you are only seeing one face at a time.
Yeah. They when they do have them on screen
they
together,
work with the limitations.
And when they do have them on screen together, the performance is good. Like, there's a comfortable rapport with herself, because that can be very tricky. We've seen so many times over when you do the double effect and actors playing off themselves, and just the logistics of how that works, and the eye lines and just the timing of it. It can be very, very tricky. Not everyone can be Jeremy Irons, where he plays twins and he makes it feel like they're both real and that they're really interacting, or Rimmer in Red Dwarf, where he's interacting with himself twice.
No, I was thinking of Sinners.
Oh, yes, of course. Michael B. Jordan in Sinners is a great example of recent times.
And the Oscar goes to Michael B. Jordan.
No hesitation from either of them that this is what is going to happen. And the fact that ring is set up, And even though Zeph says, like, this is all of you, I still was like, that's a weapon of some sort. I still didn't think about what that meant. I think it's a high commendation for this show that having Anila sort of spin on a dime after getting those memories re-injected into her brain.
It's not just her, it's all of Dutch's life as well. It's not just those missing ones, it's Dutch's entire life.
It's Dutch's entire life, yes.
It's
that,
big.
that is an important distinction to make. But it's not just that Anila is made whole by getting those memories returned to her. It's the context of Dutch's whole life and the recontextualization of Anila's relationship with Klein through now having those memories.
Because before she got them, just Dutch saying his name, ooh, that was a sore thing. You can't say Daddy's name, the precious man, the angel of my life, the guy I did this all for. You stole him away from me. And now she has the relationship. Now she has the context of it all. And it's not explicit in this episode, but you can definitely see the shift of like how Klein is viewed a bit. In that, but also just how she views Dutch. Like Dutch was her enemy. Now she's like, oh, that's right. You were like the thing that was supposed to fix me. That's right. And she still views Dutch as a thing. That's what Dutch doesn't like. Like, I'm not some thing that you can just make and throw away. I exist. I'm a being. I'm alive.
There is so many interesting things to pick away at with the fact that our protagonist and antagonist like are born of each other and for each other and from each other in this messy sci-fi way.
And that now they see eye to eye with each other. They know what needs to be done. Like, Dutch is in her self-sacrifice mode. She came here thinking that, hey, this could work, but I'm willing to die anyway. And so we have to go back to the green space and close the door so the lady can't get out. And Dutch is like, sure, I'm from there. I imagine you want to put me back there. Let's do it. Let's rock and roll.
There's no hesitation from Dutch or from Anila. It's this needs to be done, so it will be done. And that level of practicality we have seen with Dutch more than with Anila.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have seen how afraid Anila is of the lady. So her jumping in and going ahead with this plan because it might stop that. It makes sense. It feels right. It doesn't, like, I've been saying all season that eventually that they'll end up working together. The enemy of my enemy, all of that jazz. And yet it doesn't feel like a foregone conclusion.
Because there's still a bitter relationship between the two characters. And it's a deeply personal one. They're the same person, and yet they're not the same person. And so you can't just do the enemy of my enemy is my friend type deal and clap your hands and go, now it works, because there's so much between these characters, because as stated, they are the same person and yet they are not the same person. You said it, like, both of them are so easy and willing to just commit to this and walk in and not have to give a second thought, really, or take a moment to ponder about the people that they're leaving behind, because they both know that they have to clean up this mess in order to save those. We actually start the episode with Johnny being given a farm by Davin.
With robot goats.
And Davin just reassuring Dutch that, hey, just so you know,
He'll be okay.
He will be okay. And that's really what matters. Like, just indicating, like, after all of this is said and done, there will be things that will make us okay. And that's enough said in the episode of why Dutch can do this and not have to contemplate, because she's already been given the permission at the beginning. And Anila doesn't need permission. She will do what she pleases. And so that was all good. And like we said, like, this is a confrontation with a foregone conclusion in your mind. And yet it still worked.
Yeah. It still worked. And it has left me feeling very invested moving forward of how are they going to navigate this? Like, the three of them, Anila, Dutch, and Klein in the green space. What does that look like? How does that feel for them? How is it going to be going forward, having potentially a lot of scenes with Hannah and Hannah?
Mm-hmm. And now Rob Stewart, and they're all in their weird hairstyles and all of that jazz. Yes, we leave off with them in the green space, and Klein reveals that the weapon is actually 2 swords, 2 blades, and they run off to deal with the lady, is what the indication is. We've got to deal with this thing. And I even appreciate, like, hey, that might not be him. There's been tricks done in the past, and no, you instantly know this is Klein. Somehow, this is Klein.
There's loose threads that are left over and are going to flow through, but it doesn't feel like everything is left in tatters.
Was this a good finale of the season?
Yes. It built on everything that came before. It's setting up new things. It's recontextualized old things. It feels good. It feels good, but it also feels scary. Like I was saying at the top of the episode, I am nervous about what will happen next. What is the next thing that they're going to be forced to give up? Or what are they going to lose? Are they actually going to lose Dutch?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that maybe means losing Dutch completely or losing the Dutch that they know.
And something too that will be interesting is with the promise that this episode is putting down for the future of the show, whatever the antagonist of the lady is going to be different than the antagonists that we've had in the show currently. Because the antagonists of the show currently, with Klein and then Anila, have been the abusive figures of Dutch's past. While the lady is more directly the sci-fi big overarching lore threat rather than the more close, intimate, personal threat that the current antagonists have fulfilled throughout the series.
Who is the lady, Anila? The end of everything if she gets out of the green. When I brought you out, she felt it. Now she knows it can be done. I knew you were the solution. I just couldn't remember why.
On our rating system of Yum being bad and Yum Yum being good, this is a very clear Yum Yum from me.
Yum Yum. A Yum Yum from me too.
Yum Yum. Next time on our podcast, we're not going to be jumping straight into season 4. We're going to have a little break to talk about our overall feelings on the 3rd season. We're going to do a recap. We're going to look back over it, talk about the high points, the low points, the things that we're thinking about now in retrospect with the whole season, as well as looking into the future, thinking about what will be coming up next. You can make your predictions, and so on and so on and so on. So everyone make sure to tune in next time for our season 3 recap. As stated earlier, we have a Patreon. If you want to support the podcast, head on over to the Patreon. We have a community Discord. We can talk with your fellow Yumlings about things that we talk about here on the podcast or whatever else. We have many things happening over there. But until next time, just make sure to ponder this. You can look at our description and find us. We're on all the social medias and all the podcasting sites, but something to ponder, Rachel, okay? We've been pondering all season at the end of every episode, okay? And I'm always the one asking the pondering statement. I'm always the one putting down the pondering statement, but do you have something to ponder about? Let's ponder. Does Rachel have something to ponder? Do you?
I'm pondering.
Hmm.
I ponder why you decided today to throw this to me.
Because it's the last one.
Yeah. Okay. I'm also pondering, does that lift have a toilet?
Yeah, are they going to have to shit in the corner?
Because she reminds us that her bladder is under pressure. And also that she's a hungry little bitch. So does that... how equipped is this elevator?